You know, on paper, the Anbernic RG28XX was not made for me, and yet I keep finding myself reaching for this thing, and I want to go over some of the reasons why I think you might want to reach for it too. Let's get into it. Now, as we get started, I do want to say that a third-party retailer, RetroMimi.com, did reach out to me about reviewing the RG28XX and sent this over. No money exchanged hands, but they just asked for my honest review and that I would link their website in my video. They are not affiliated with Anbernic in any way, but one of the neat things about their website is that they do offer free shipping as well as taxes included in the price of this, and so that's kind of cool. They also sent me a discount code, so make sure to check the pinned comment below or the description for that link and code. You know, when it comes to retro handhelds, one of the things that Anbernic is known for is their build quality, and it's no different here in the RG28XX, even though this is an extremely budget-friendly retro handheld. Everything is cut and crafted well. The buttons have a nice resistance to them. Nothing clicks too loud, except for maybe these shoulder buttons. But this is a very polished product. The plastic shell feels nice and sturdy, and it doesn't slip out of the hand too easily. Teardown should be fairly simple with only 4 screws holding this together, and overall everything just comes together really nicely. With this device you do get 2 SD card slots, a 3.5mm headphone jack, a volume rocker on the side. You surprisingly get an HDMI out port on the top as well as your DC OTG port. That's a USB-C port on the top here. Your menu or function button is on top as well, and I found that because this device is so small, it's not too terribly hard to get to reach. I typically don't like that button being on top, but it's okay here. You also get a couple of indicator lights here for if it's charging and if it's turned on, and then on the right side we have our power button and reset button. I feel like start and select are placed pretty well, very easy to reach right here under the D-pad. The D-pad does sit a little bit too high for me, but the thing about this D-pad that I really love is that it has an excellent pivot to it. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it pivots so well and doesn't sink down into the device too far. These face buttons are a little small, but I don't have a problem hitting them individually like I did on the RG Nano, and so I think that they're functional enough, and they do have a nice resistance to them, and they're not too clicky or loud. And then one of the other things I want to point out is that this does come with a 64GB Kioxia card, and I believe this brand is owned by Toshiba, and so while this isn't a name brand like a Samsung or a SanDisk card, I have seen several of these in these retro handheld devices, and none of them have given me any trouble at all, which isn't always the case. A lot of times you get these unnamed generic cards that just are completely black and might just have the number 64 on them, for example, and those cards tend to fail pretty quickly and easily. But I haven't had any trouble with this brand, and so I'm happy to see them using something that's a little more reputable and less likely to be corrupted. But let's go ahead and power this thing on and see how long it takes to boot. And there you go, not too bad at all. This does come, of course, with the stock Anbernic firmware, and it's getting better all the time. But there's also some third-party options out there, including the increasingly popular MuOS, and I am considering doing an install video on that in the future. Let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in seeing that. I did want to show you just how well this pivots here. It works so well, and it feels so nice. It really surprised me on this tiny handheld. One of the other things I want to point out on here is that this is just a 2.8-inch display, and it's 640 by 480, but because it's such a small display, that pixel density is a lot higher, and with that higher density, man, this looks so sharp. Text is super sharp. You almost can't even see the individual pixels, and even old games like, you know, something on Dreamcast like Soul Calibur here just looks better than it does on a larger display. Like, I think it looks better on here than it would on the 3.5-inch display on the RG35XX Plus. And that's really saying something, because the 35XX line I think looks really good. But as you can see, this is running Dreamcast really well on this device. It's using the same H700 quad-core chipset as the RG35XX line is running now. It also has 1 gig of RAM, just like the 35XX line, so the performance really is exactly the same. Out of the ring. And take a listen to the sound here, because the sound, honestly, I think it might sound better than the RG35XX does in a smaller form factor. What? I just won. I wasn't even playing. She jumped out of the ring. You are going to get some pretty great performance, especially, your 8 and 16-bit games. Even your 32-bit games are going to run really well. You're going to get performance all the way up to, Dreamcast and PSP, like I'm playing here. But not all PSP's games are going to run well, of course. But the ones that do are going to be a lot of fun, even if they'll be a little stretched. You also get a 3100 milliamp hour battery here. It gets you about 8 hours of battery life, especially when you're playing the lower end systems. And I've really enjoyed the battery life on this device. Two quick negatives I almost forgot to mention is that one, this does not have Wi-Fi, and therefore there are no retro achievements. And two, updating the firmware is kind of a cumbersome process. I really wish there was a simpler solution, something Anbernic could figure out on how to update the stock firmware. But as it is right now, if you're not tech savvy, it could be an issue for you. And I guess really the last question left to answer is, why do I keep reaching for this? Well, I've given that a lot of thought, and it honestly has to do with the size. This thing is so cute. It's so lightweight. It just fits, this candy bar style just fits in your hand. I feel like my fingers in the back don't overlap, but my thumbs feel really comfortable at this distance right here. I like the buttons. I like the battery life. I like the sound quality. The screen looking as sharp as it does with that high pixel density is incredible. And then just, look at the size compared to the Plus model. This is slightly longer, but it's not as thick. Show you that, I guess, best I can. It's not as thick as the RG28XX Plus, and obviously not as wide either. This guy just, you can just slide this into your pocket, take it anywhere you want to go, and play it whenever you have a few minutes to spare. I can just set this on my desk, leave it off to the side. When I'm waiting for a video to render, just reach for it, pick it up and play for a few minutes. Or if I just need a 5 or 10 minute break just to kind of clear my head or something, there it is. It's also incredibly well balanced, like shockingly well balanced. It's so balanced it almost becomes like a fidget toy. You can spin this like a spinning top. It's an absurd amount of fun just to do that. And the build quality is high enough that I feel like if I had this in my back pocket and I accidentally sat down on it, it wouldn't damage it at all. So I've been very impressed with the RG28XX. And like I said, I don't feel like this device was meant for me on paper. It wasn't made for me. I have full-grown man hands, and I feel like I need a bigger device to play comfortably. But because of all these reasons, this is perfectly comfortable for me, and I never expected to say that. I beat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, the other day in basically 2 sittings. I played it over the course of a couple of days and finished the game on this device, and it was an absolutely fantastic experience. It looked great, it sounded great, the buttons weren't an issue. I actually loved every single second of game time with this. So if you're looking for the perfect pick up and go, stick it in your pocket device, this might be for you. So make sure to check the links in the description and the pinned comment below. Thanks for liking, subscribing, sharing this video with a friend. Stay kind and encouraging out there, and I'll catch you on the flippity flip.